Perkins from the Boston Restaurant Group. Charlie advises on sales, purchases. Again, if you've eaten in a restaurant, chances are Charlie may have been involved in selling it or appraising it or buying it. So Charlie, welcome.
Hi, thank you very much.
A man clearly with his finger on the pulse of the restaurant industry. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your background and some of the trends that you've seen over the years within the industry, if you will?
My background, I used to be a regional manager with a company called Friendly Ice Cream. I was with Friendly for about 17 years. And I resigned from Friendly's and I bought a couple of Dunkin' Donut shops. I had those up in Exeter, New Hampshire, and Portsmouth. Sold the Dunkin' Donut shops, opened a donut shop in Nantucket. I made the first hand-cut donut they'd ever had in Nantucket. I made 1,500,000 donuts. I have very bad arthritis in my left hand. As far as the history of the restaurants and everything, I think during President Eisenhower's term, they started what was known as the Interstate Highway Act. And you had your three-digit numbers like 495, 128 going around the major cities. You had your 95s, 91s going east and west and north and south. Up in the 50s, Howard Johnson's was sort of the host of the highways. It was during that period, during that decade, that a lot of the fast food restaurants started. McDonald's, Burger King, Dunkin' Donuts, Wendy's, Papagino's, and as an alternative. I think during the 60s and the 70s, most of the restaurant activity was in the hotels. You had a lot of Asian restaurants have always done well, but most of your fine dining restaurants, if you will, were the fast food or were in the fine dining were in the hotels. In the 1980s, Todd English, Chris Schlesinger, Gordon Hammersley are sort of the giants of the chefs in the greater Boston area, all started their restaurants. I think also in the 80s, I remember Chili's had an IPO. At that time, they had 20 units doing $2.5 million per unit. So their total gross sales were about $50 million, and they raised an awful lot of money. Today, you've got to be doing north of $200 million to even get the analysts' attentions if you're going to be in the public arena. I think also I used to get calls from companies in California saying, we want to be in Boston, we're doing sales of $4 million. I'd counter back to them that Charlie Sarkis is the Back Bay Restaurant Group, Legal Seafoods. We had some very strong contenders. In the 80s, we had 5 companies going public. We had the Ground Round, Boston Chicken, Bertucci's, Pizzeria Uno, and Charlie Sarkis's group. They are all back in the private sector now. I think what's happened, I'll get calls, I want to open a restaurant in the city of Boston. I'll say, well, what's your concept? Well, it depends. You're going to open a restaurant in the city of Boston. Boston's the 3rd most expensive city in the United States. You've got to know exactly who you are, what you're going to do, and how you're going to do it.